Presentation: The Minnesota Council on Disability honors the life and advocacy of Damon Leivestad. Logo: Minnesota Council on Disability.
And now, the Minnesota Council on Disability honors the life and advocacy of Damon Leivestad.
On the left, Damon has a trimmed beard and smiles in front of a background with stars in red and blue colors. On the right, a man wearing glasses and a black shirt makes hand gestures using sign language and continues throughout the video. Logo: M Council on Disability.
MCD honors Damon Leivestad, who passed away in 2024. He was 51. At Damon's celebration of life, his brother Derek offered this comforting quote.
Damon wears a dark knit hat and a red shirt. He sits next to another man in a blue shirt who rests his hand on Damon's shoulder. Trees and greenery fill the background.
Spinal muscular atrophy can take away all of my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind. It cannot touch my heart. And it cannot touch my soul.
Damon sits in the center wearing a black beanie, a beige shirt, a pink sash, and colorful lace around his neck. He is flanked by two smiling men with name tags, one in a dark jacket and glasses on the left and the other in a green shirt on the right.
Damon's soul, his essence, that which activated his amazing smile and his intellect, lives on.
A smiling woman leans on Damon's shoulder as they pose together outdoors. Damon wears a light blue shirt and stands beside palm leaves.
His strength of commitment, which he poured into solving the home care worker crisis, not only for himself, but for everyone that needs home care to survive, is why we honor Damon today and every day.
Damon sits in a wheelchair on the left next to two other men in wheelchairs. They pose in front of a large military aircraft surrounded by people.
The time, energy, and difficulty of finding workers leaves people with disabilities feeling very vulnerable, burdensome, and at times, without hope. Engineers solve problems.
Damon lies in bed holding a remote control, with a small dog standing on the blanket in front of him. Damon sits in a room with 5 smiling people gathered around a bed, with framed photos and computer monitors in the background.
An engineer with a disability inspires hope. In his own words, from the 2023 Legislative Forum,
Damon wears a dark beanie and a zip-up sweater while sitting indoors with wooden doors behind him and speaks.
I'm a 49-year-old mechanical engineer from Plymouth, where I live with my parents, David and Deanna. I was born with a neurological disorder called spinal muscular atrophy, and I've been in a wheelchair since I was 10 years old. I've been using PCA home care services since 1992. The shortage of home care workers is growing at a staggering rate, which has had a tremendous impact on those of us who rely on home care services. The time, energy, and difficulty of finding workers leaves people with disabilities feeling very vulnerable, burdensome, and at times with little hope, as thousands of other disabled Minnesotans are in similar situations. As a result, I have become increasingly active in advocating for changes in the home care services that I feel are needed to address the home care crisis. Together, I hope we can find a solution to make home care work a desirable career opportunity with sustainable wages and benefits to attract quality, reliable home care workers. Thank you.
Damon sits in a wheelchair between two women holding purple and yellow protest signs in front of a large government building. All 3 wear face masks.
For years, Damon told lawmakers, decision makers, the press, anyone who would listen, we have to act. We have to solve the home care crisis. My life and lives of others depend on it. Damon stayed at it, receiving an Exceptional Advocate Award from the Minnesota Council on Disability. Awarded for being a champion for people with disabilities and caregivers in Minnesota, creating several bills to combat the home care crisis in Minnesota. In November 2022, Damon, interviewed by WCCO News, told viewers he was pretty frustrated with lawmakers not understanding how difficult it can be to work and stay approved to get needed services to sustain life.
Damon sits in a wheelchair near a desk while a woman stands beside him. The room has framed photos and a neatly made bed.
I just don't think they really understand how difficult it is to work when you're disabled. In order to be on milk assistance, you have to be very asset poor.
A document features a profile photo of Damon and text describing him as a 50-year-old mechanical engineer and disability advocate from Plymouth, MN.
In August of 2023, Damon and others told the Minnesota Reformer that home care workers are amongst the highest in demand in healthcare, but are the lowest paid. The inequity of that reality affecting his ability to work. In 2024, Damon addressed the Commissioner of Human Services, offering solutions to the home care crisis.
A masked person holds a protest sign in a hallway. The headline reads, "Despite a chaotic session end, many gains are celebrated."
In June of 2024, Access Press recognizes Damon's legislative work, writing, "Progress was made on home care worker issues, championed by advocate Damon Lifestad." A big win here is that direct care staff can now provide services when a client is hospitalized. The truth is, some of us will die before we see that which we've been fighting for come to pass. Such is the case for Damon Lifestad, a brilliant, kind, smart, loved person who contributed all he had, who lived and died with spinal muscular atrophy, a person deeply thankful for those who provided the home care he needed to live, a person who never stopped fighting to achieve what he felt is a fundamental human right, the support he and others need to contribute meaningfully to the people he loved, to his family, friends, and his community.
Damon sits at a round table dressed in a dark red shirt, smiling with three women posing closely beside him in a warmly lit room with brick walls. Damon and his teammates, all in red and blue Stars jerseys, pose together on a gym floor after a power hockey game. Several players hold trophies and a plaque. Damon is wrapped in a Minnesota Vikings blanket and sits between two children in winter hats, smiling inside a room with computer monitors and family photos. Damon sits in a wheelchair surrounded by 7 family members, all smiling outdoors with palm trees, flowers, and a cloudy blue sky in the background. A man wears a beige suit jacket, red tie, and striped shirt. The background is a dark teal gradient.
Hi, I'm Senator John Hoffman. I'm Chair of Human Services. And Damon, this is actually about you and for you. I'll never forget the first time I met you. There was an interchange of emails, and I went out to Plymouth to a coffee shop. And here you came in with your staff, and we got coffee. And the minute you opened your mouth, I realized this guy's an engineer. And sure enough, you are an engineer. And that's what I found out. But the breadth that you had and the knowledge of human services wasn't just on a, how you doing, good to see you, you're looking good, family's okay, you know, we care about those people, but rather you got into the intricacies of how systems intertwine with one another and how it works, not from the top level, but on the level that people are getting the services. I'll never forget that. Immediately when you opened your mouth, you started talking about overnight staff and the staff being available or not being available, depending upon cost factors, depending upon why aren't we doing it this way or why aren't we doing it that way. And I sat there and I listened. I didn't do all the talking. That's the first time in the history of me as a senator that I actually sat and listened. Put that one into the books. Second thing is, I'll never forget that my staff, my committee administrator, who was sitting there having a discussion about some of the bills that you had sent. These are early on bills. And the bills that you had sent and how in-depth they were. And he was trying to figure out, and he was looking at this piece of paper, and he paused for a second, and I'll never forget this moment. His eyes got really wide, and he looked at David, and he said, I now understand what Damon's trying to do. And because of that, what Damon was trying to do, we decided to put together all those things that you are trying to do and tried to do. And we created your act. And there's every bit of work that you had done and work that you wanted to do and work that we needed to do, we put into this act. And we're going to get this done. We have to keep working on it because that's what you would do. Keep working. Even when you were in bed laying there during the negotiations, I understand you were on the phone, right? Putting your input into what negotiations should look like. That's commitment. So I'm glad I got to meet the engineer, and I'm glad I got to have you a part of my life, because not only the work that you do and changed my life, but it changes a lot of other people's lives. So thank you, Damon.
A large white government building with a central dome stands under a clear blue sky. People gather on the steps and lawn in front.
In 2025, Senators Hoffman, May Quaid, Abeler, and Utka introduced a bill, the Damon Livestad Direct Care Sustainability Act, in his honor. Again bringing forth critical legislation addressing all that Damon fought for, to do something about the home care shortage crisis.
Damon Livestad is in front wearing a red Puma shirt and dark knit hat. Behind him is a faded photo of smiling family members. Text: Damon Livestad 1973 to 2024.